All right, go button has been pressed. Welcome, everybody, back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast. As always, and hopefully for forever, my name is Sam Burns. If you're joining us, you know the guy on my far right, your far left. No, everybody's far right if you're viewing this, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. After our after our absolute snafu of scheduling, which is 100% my fault.
I was gonna say, was it? It was initially blamed on me.
Well, most things are initially blamed on you.
You're gonna be if you blame things on me, you're gonna have it right 99% of the time.
Well, a broken clock and all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had scheduling bits because we got a guest today, and of course, our guest is the guy in the middle who's not me or Kevin, although he is the other semi-bald white guy, mostly with the beard sometimes.
Mhm.
So this is Sam Horenstein. Sam, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Wonderful. So Kevin and I, Kevin and I have had the good fortune. Okay, I'll speak for myself. I feel like I've had the good fortune of working with Sam and learning from Sam um, for quite a while now, and I feel fortunate to call Sam a colleague and a mentor. And you've had a quite the rambling little meandering path through CrossFit um, in a maybe like a world record Helen amount of time. Give us like a synopsis of like kind of how you got into CrossFit, high level overview where you gone and what you do now.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Very pleasant introduction and flattered for. I'm proud to be a mentor figure and a friend to you guys as well.
Hmm.
So I don't take that lightly. In terms of my journey in the CrossFit space, I found this or was kind of brought into it by a former roommate, a guy that I used to be a training partner in college. Um, and he brought me to CrossFit Fenway in 2010. So I've had about 13 years with all of this. I was a competitive athlete in college and then spent like 7 years getting fat. So when I started CrossFit, I was about the better part of 300 pounds. So I like lived
No
the desert out,
way.
wine. Oh yeah, did you not know this about me?
No,
So
No.
there are many aspects of my journey that you may not be aware of.
I just
So
I
always,
got
whenever I think Sam
goosebumps.
Horenstein, I just think this is a meatball of a dude who's offensively strong without ever lifting.
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
was more of a meatball. Even I was like, literal meatball, like head the size of a manhole cover kind of meatball. Um, and I joined CrossFit Fenway. I had my again, like there was a guy that I moved out to Boston with a few
Mm,
years prior, and I was overweight as I mentioned, and not living a very healthy lifestyle. I was basically
mhm.
drinking from like Tuesday to Saturday night, and had 2 days to sober up, and went back to my office job and all that sort of stuff. So it
Wow.
was not a healthy lifestyle. It was a fun one, if you look back at it, and I didn't know how not fit or where I was on whatever spectrum because I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of it.
Sure.
But he brought me into it, and I made fun of him for competitive exercise, and here I am now. I found a great community, lost a bunch of weight. I started coaching truthfully to try to um, not pay the membership that I was paying. But
hmm
if I'm being totally candid about it. I was at one of the three affiliates that existed in the Boston, New England area. So I was at CrossFit Fenway, and
Yeah.
this predates basically everything else. It was New England, Boston, and Fenway back then. Those are my
Yeah.
choices. And so I drove to Fenway every morning, 6 a.m., and I went to work after that, and eventually transitioned into working there part time when Fenway was at the games, I think in 2010.
Yeah.
And then the following years after that, I started training more, and I was on our regionals team in 12. Um, so I was able to compete like on the plywood in Canton and behind Reebok and all that stuff,
Love
and
it.
I've seen that too. And I worked as a part-time trainer at Reebok Canton, in addition to working full-time for Fenway. And then when Austin Maliolo came on to open up this space, I went over with him and got
Mm.
to go coach the first morning class at 5 a.m. doing Cindy here at CrossFit One Nation in 2014.
Wow.
And since then, that's kind of turned into my only show. I've had like a my relationship has changed over the years with One Nation.
Mm-hmm.
I've started here as one of many part-time trainers and a few other red shirts that were here helping out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually was a facility head, and I stepped out of that role for a while, worked in emergency medicine over the pandemic. And then a year ago, I had the opportunity to take over the reins here as the affiliate owner with a partner, with a new partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And brought back some other trainers, brought in some other veterans, some other friends from the community, and kind of been bringing the ship back up in the direction that I want it to go, and trying to spend the last year kind of fine tuning my own vision for what I want for this community and what this community wants for itself, and trying to have my decisions informed by a lot of conversations and a lot of relationships. And in a nutshell, yeah, I've been a coach, I've been a competitor, I've been I've been drastically out of shape, and I've now an affiliate owner. And the day we signed the paperwork for this gym was the day my son was born. So it's been there's a lot of change to summarize
Yeah.
in the matter of
Yeah.
whatever the past 90 seconds just were.
I say it's a wild time when you're like, hey, we had a kid and we bought a business, and
And
we're like we're laying in the hospital, and it's just like, all right, well, I gotta go to the gym.
yeah, gotta go to the gym real quick. Gotta sign my life away.
Yeah, pretty much.
Boom.
So yeah, and I'm sure there's any number of things to kind of pick at along that story. So
sure.
I'll let you guys kind of
say, Mr. Burns, have you been back to CrossFit One Nation since Sam and Josh have taken over?
I haven't had the good fortune.
Gym looks great. By the way,
I
haven't been there.
No doubt.
Haven't been there in a few months. When was I there, Sam? Beginning of the summer, ish.
You were there
spring?
To pick up your
spring
tax information, so probably
spring.
right before April 14th.
Yeah. So spring, and walked in. I was like, wow, it's like it's same but different type thing. Like you can definitely see like this is still CrossFit One Nation, but it's definitely like you could see where Sam has put his personality and his like vision into the gym, and he's done a great job for sure. Having been around those gyms for a long time as well.
And
good stuff.
Of that I have no doubt.
Yeah.
So the last time I was in the Boston area with like any time to spare, I was at CrossFit Boston. What is now CrossFit Boston was One Nation Boston. It's now CrossFit Boston again. And I was POC for a level 1, and then like 2 days later moved. And it was maybe a month or so before you signed the papers and took over as owner at One Nation. And it's when you talk to me about Kev, when you talk to me about like the changes, I have a very, very good thing. I have a pretty solid picture in mind. So the way I know Sam, I started coaching full time January 2018 at Reebok CrossFit Medfield, and I had my level 1. I was coaching and doing all the things and jumping in head first. And I think it's a recommended 50-hour minimum to take your level 2. And I went to Hendel Spencer, and I was like, hey, I got my 50 hours. He's like, don't do it. Just coach a little bit more, get some bad habits, and then, go off. And so I'm like, well, because I'm that guy, alcoholic and addict, I don't do things by half measures. So I did the next best thing, which in my view was going to One Nation and doing the internship program that they had there. And so Sam was the guy he was my handler basically at One Nation. And my first exposure to what a fleshed out coaching development program looked like, and really helped me define what it means to be thoughtful and deliberate about delivering an experience inside of a class, inside an affiliate. And at the time, as he mentioned, there was a stable of really great coaches there, on all of whom I had the good fortune of, let's say, being exposed to, because, some of them were characters, and I'm thinking Greg and Meg specifically.
Very good understatement, but sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a combo. A little 1-2 combo there.
I
Mhm.
I still tell stories about I was doing whatever thing. So like I had the gig that I had was I would go there in the morning for like 2 or 3 hours, like several days a week, and then I would go to Medfield and I would coach afternoon and evening classes. And so like that was my whole day. And I remember some point middle of the day, there was nothing going on, and it was Sam and Meg Burns, and they're like, "Hey Sam, come over here." And so that's always a great way to start things. And so I go over and they're like, "Pick one of the 9 foundational movements. You're going to coach us." And if you're a coach and you're new, you have a spiel. Like you have like the things, the structure, the script in your head that you've built for X movement, right? And so I'm like, all right, I picked the air squat.
First mistake.
I have my memory. I
do,
do. So continue. I
do,
hope you remember it the way that I do.
so this will be fun. So, um, I, yes, there's Meg and Sam, and I go through whatever my spiel was, and this is prior to taking my level 2. Let's make that clear. This is prior to taking my level 2. So I run through whatever it was, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll throw a little curveball at him. I'll take him to the wall and do some squat therapy. And I turn around to go walk, and Meg goes, "Stop, fucking stop. Just come back. Do it all over again." And I'm like, ah, ah, which I hope, is that how you remember it?
I remember stop talking. Like I was like, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Like and then I remember like full, system overload when we got to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Like it's intimidating, and I've learned a lot now too, along the same vein from that experience with you, Sam, and with more recent experiences with more recent interns. So like, and now as an affiliate owner, and like I have a good team here.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one of them's full time. Everyone else is kind of like ships passing a little bit. So
Sure.
my first year of ownership here was pretty focused and pretty dialed in on getting the facility and getting the kind of the vision of who this gym is for,
Yes.
in line. And I think probably one of my best and worst qualities as a leader, not that you ask, is I'm not especially
We're here for it.
well, right. Well, I'm not. I feel like I'm not especially fast to react to things. I'm pretty I like to kind of gather a lot of information before I make decisions on that. So I like to have my decisions informed by as many sources as possible,
Yeah.
typically. And sometimes I'll spend too much time getting those sources. So, anyways, I had a newer trainer that was entering college and was doing one of those senior year intern programs. So
Yep.
it was just like work trade off thing, and she
Yep.
was working with me for a couple months, and she was helping me with a lot of facility stuff and maintaining
Mm-hmm.
rowers and what have you. And
Mm-hmm.
she put herself through her L1 and started actually doing some coaching intern work as well. And
Yep.
so there was a day where it was like, all right, well, she a great student, like someone who's 17, 18 years old, and delivered a better product as a coach by the end of this program than a lot of people that I personally was coached by years ago.
Yeah.
So really impressive. Like, was very, very good at what she did. I remember early on we were like on a whiteboard like this going over the squat series. So we wrote down,
Mm-hmm.
air squat, front, overhead. We
Yep.
were like, setup, points of performance, execution, or whatever, common
Mm-hmm.
faults, cues. And we just kind
Mm-hmm.
of started reading through it, and we were kind of quizzing her through each of those. And this wasn't even a coaching piece. This was kind of like we set it up like fill in the blank. And by the end of it, like her eyes like rolled back into her head. And I was just like, so I kind of did this whole having you drink out of a fire hose thing, huh?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's like, no, I did. That was too much. We did too much.
Yeah.
So like, that's something that I've had to learn. And that's in a smaller version of in a greater scope. When I came back to coaching at One Nation, like
Mm.
there were so many things that I saw that I wanted to improve, right? I
Yeah.
want the gym to be cleaner, I want the facility to look this way, I want the program to be such a way, I want
Yeah.
the athletes to behave a certain way in my classes, I want my coaches to behave a certain way in the classes and when they deliver their classes. And like I was on the affiliate roundtable yesterday, and they were talking about the affiliate thing that was at the games, where all
Hmm.
the affiliate owners were being taken through classes, and all the classes that they were being taken through were being led by L4s, right?
Yep.
So like seeing, and for them, my understanding is the experience was like mind blowing to all of them to have an L4 run a very simple program really elegantly and have so
Yeah.
much engagement, so much queuing and correcting, and so much coaching to
Yeah.
happen within an hour. And we talked about it a little bit as a group on the call. And what I would find from that as an affiliate owner, like you go there, you're inspired. This is amazing. I can do this. I know how to do this. I have the tools to do this. It's not as
Hmm.
hard. Like it is challenging. It takes real work to do it. But the actual like execution of that, bringing that to a community, especially an established community, the time
Yeah.
it takes you to actually turn the boat is so hard to do. Like at some point, if you turn the boat too fast, everyone's overboard, right? Like
Yeah.
they're all gone, they're quitting, they hate you, whatever. So like there's, and even if it is like with the best intentions, I think like what I've had to learn is very much triaging and
Mhm.
prioritizing the things that I've wanted to change here in the past
Mhm.
year. And I feel really good about where the community and the facility and the coaching and the standards and the conversations are now around
Mhm.
everything that we do here. Um, but right away, like I had different people in different years being like, you should do cap, you should make, you should write your own programming, you should, move the whiteboard over here so you're not distracted with that. You should clean this, put that, pull up bars here, bigger open gym rig, smaller open gym rig, fire these people, keep those people. It's like Jesus fuck. So it took time to kind of find my the voice that I wanted for the business and what
Yeah.
my interpretation of that and like the I think what's given me a lot of peace and given me a lot of guidance in that is it's actually a really old line. I think it's from CrossFit Santa Cruz, but it's the CrossFit isn't for anyone, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
You
Who's
know,
the last one?
like I met a I met a guy walking my dog a week ago,
Hmm.
52 years old, has literally never been in a gym in his life, never
Yeah.
touched a barbell, couldn't point to a barbell,
Right.
and we were just out walking the dog, and normally he sees my wife, but she was at the games, and so he's just like, "Hey, you have this child and this dog, but you're not that woman. So who are you?" And so we started talking for a little while. I'm making sure that I didn't just steal my own son.
Yeah.
And and I was just like, oh yeah, I own a gym in Needham in the town that
Yep.
we're in. And he's just like, oh, I'll come try it out. And this guy came to a class, and the class was a couplet of must have been, I think it was just like bench press and running. It was simple, and
Awesome.
there was literally nothing else programmed. It was 3 rounds, like 25 bench, 800-meter run. So a simple couplet. And I had a
Simple.
great time, scaled
Yeah,
well,
horrible.
cleaned up, good to go. That sounds like me, right? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Sam workout right there. It's like
and then he
Yes.
comes
just
back. He
20.
comes back the next day, and the next day is like I think like 6x4 deadlift, right? Just
Awesome.
a heavy day. And so like we had a simple couplet the first day. You had a heavy day the next day, and like this guy was able to walk into my gym having never been in the gym before,
Yeah.
having had all these limitations. He had like a spinal fusion done and like a laminectomy, and like he signs up, and there's no on ramp. There's no 3-day on ramp, 7-day, whatever, no private training, no,
Hmm.
all my classes are all levels. And truthfully, that programming I've had a lot of conversations over the years, and a couple people have moved on from my facility for that reason,
Yep.
where they're like, when are you going to do like a multi-component? When are you going to do strength plus metcon? When are you going to have, you know, a lift, a conditioning, and an accessory inside of your hour? And I was just like, truthfully, I probably never will.
Yeah.
Just because like
Once
that's
a
just
year.
not what I want to offer. And that's
Yeah.
that's it. And that's fine
Yeah.
if that's what you want to do. If that's your picture of CrossFit, go for it. I
Yes.
still believe that is CrossFit in its own way. Um, but I'd really like to lower the barrier of entry, and I do want my class to be for anyone, like I said. And I try not to take it well. It makes it easy to not take it personally when it is like, but it's not for everyone, right?
Mhm.
So like, if you want to do more shit with your hour, go ahead.
Yeah.
You can do open gym, you can go somewhere else. Like, you don't have to be my client. And I understand that's a luxury as a business owner to be able to say that. But like, even so, like, would it be easier if I did take everyone and I was reactive and I did change my programming every time someone spoke up? Maybe. Like, it certainly would be easier on my trainers if they were just like, there's a bunch of components and
Yeah.
I don't have time to actually coach anything. It's really just shepherding
I
everyone
just
through a list of
yeah.
stuff.
I just stand there with my cup of coffee and watch everyone go through it.
Well,
Yeah,
so I'm
exactly.
listening.
But I have a lot of empathy. I've learned a lot. I've joined these affiliate roundtables over the past year. I've talked to a lot of other affiliate owners now that I'm a part of this, and like, I I can sympathize with why affiliate owners choose these really complex programs. Like that, it is easier to do this. You make your clients happy. They still get better. They still build capacity. Functional movement still works. CrossFit still works. I don't remember where I heard it, but someone was just like, even the worst program, people are still going to get better from it. Like,
Hobart.
Yeah.
yeah, Hobart,
I
right?
think, what was the? I
Um,
think that like it was CrossFit so potent of a stimulus that even when implemented poorly, it'll be effective.
Yes.
right. So like, and so I understand that because it's so easy. Like if you think about it that way, people get this feeling that they want, right? They build capacity and they do improve from it, depending on who's measuring that improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because better is different for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's easier on your trainers from like a excellence perspective and like a development perspective. They don't have to be great in the sense that like anyone you can be your trainers no longer become coaching specialists. They become like community celebrities, right? Like
Oh, yes.
you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you become the person that like, I'm just excited to hang out with Sam for the hour. And
Right.
Sam's a great coach because I have a great experience with the programming that I'm doing because I feel crushed after an hour. But the athlete's definition of what a coach is
Yeah.
different than mine, right?
Yeah.
And I think that actually exists in a large way in a lot of affiliates still. Like you mistake good coaching for overly complex programming or vice versa.
Yeah.
But I understand why affiliate owners do this, and I think it's kind of like if you give an iPad to a child. You know, it's just like here's a bunch
I
of
don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
right. But also to the same point, I understand why parents give iPads to children because like sometimes you just need 5 fucking minutes.
Mhm.
So like, but like not to say that like, but I also don't think it's healthy to do it that way every day.
Yeah.
For hours and hours at a time.
Yeah.
And in the same regard, that's kind of how I look at over programmed hours. And not for nothing, it has been helped. Like that is something that I experimented with over the year of putting more in my hour to try to like give my coaches space to coach, but also kind of sexy up the programming for the people that wanted to come to class. Because like I can talk to anyone through about why my programming is effective if they're in front of me.
Yes.
But if they never walk in my door, it doesn't matter. Like their perception is their perception and their perception is their reality. And
Yeah.
so like I can't fight with that if I'm not there to, put up the fight. So
Right.
like they look at the programming the night before and they're like, that's boring. I'm not coming. I can't have that
Right.
conversation. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys know I have Denise on my staff too, right? So like you want to talk about someone who's encouraging to have me make changes quickly. She's very persuasive.
I was going to say, encouraging is a gentle word.
Yeah.
It is a gentle word. It is a gentle word. I still remember. So Denise and I used to be roommates. She lived with Erica and I, but actually Denise and I lived together before my wife and I did, before we were married. But Denise was like the coaching was everywhere. It was like how you load the dishwasher, how you wipe the counter. It was just like, do you wipe this way or do you do it with circles, and which way leaves streaks, which way doesn't, and just like it was everything. It was always all the time. So I think that's tempered back a little bit, but I still have fond memories of that apartment. And
It's like when you wipe the counter, do you do wax on or wax off?
Right.
Well, that was I think I did it in straight lines, and it was just like it leaves
psychopath.
lines. Sam, like I know it's the sociopath.
Psychopath.
But now circles.
Yeah.
No,
but it leaves lines, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
There
that
is
sounded
so
like
much.
Harry Potter. That was a young Harry Potter right there.
Hey,
A
I
young
listen to
Daniel
enough.
Radcliffe just came out.
I listen to enough English people talking to me a lot. Um, Sam, what you just said, there's so much packed into what you just said that is incredibly important on so many levels. One of the things that stuck out immediately was, keeping the programming simple to lower the barrier to entry for the members who are coming through. And first of all, I love that concept, right? Because to your point about perception being reality, if someone's perception is an overprogrammed, what we would call an overprogrammed hour, if that is something they are not capable of even like attempting, they will not attempt to attempt. They'll write themselves off, and then it will never become part of their lives. And I think from a service provider standpoint, we love what we do. We love the coaching. We love the relationship. But the end result is I want to get a human being out of pain. I want to provide a human being a path to freedom, right? However you define freedom. But in this particular case, I want to get you to the point where you are free to do whatever you want, because from a physical, mental, and emotional standpoint, we have conditioned ourselves such as you can do that, right?
Yeah,
And
agreed.
you create one way via programming of lowering the barrier to entry for the people who walk through the door. And the very next thing that I thought was, but it raises the bar for execution for the coaches tenfold. And you kind of worked it back around when you were talking about, you're not trying to quote unquote make things easier for the coach by over programming in the hour, by only having 3 rounds, 25 bench, 800-meter run, which 12 minutes, maybe 16, 18 minutes.
Is that what you're guessing?
That's what I'm guessing.
Oh.
12, 15 minutes?
Sam's like, not if you do all the 225 benches on
I was going to say, what's the weight for the bench press? I don't know.
No, it was 135. And it was, yeah. Of course I went unbroken. Jesus, what's wrong with you?
Well, of course, yeah. I still remember one of the most insane things was, I forget which open it was, that they were like, they had a handstand push-up.
It was a two-round workoout. I apologize.
Oh,
two rounds, 800-meter run, 25 bench, 135. Eight and a half minutes.
Yeah.
That was
yeah. Run real fast.
He's just like using his sternum as a springboard. I still remember, like, Sam, like, for those of you guys that are listening that may not know, Sam Horenstein is the best presser in the world. I remember
he's also
you
built
made a
for
video.
That.
Well, yes. But you made a video during the open where it was the handstand push-up standard was like for scaled was hands within inside the box and then like an ab mat and a plate. You demoed it and you like kicked up to a handstand. You had like maybe like that, like an inch of range of motion, right. And Sam was just like just cranking them out.
Context.
Amazing.
My favorite, I've had my arms described a lot of different ways. The T-Rex one's the most common one, but
yeah.
Someone once told me that I had arms like baby carrots, right? So that was always really good. And as a frame of reference here, like I do have, like, my long bones are not long, right? My feet are not all that, the humerus, whatever. And then you add that to a giant head where you can see my hat barely holding on for the right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not much range of motion when it comes to handstand push-ups. Giant head, tiny arms. You don't have to go very far. So the distance traveled is minimal.
Sure. Which, hey, anthropometrics are different for everybody. Rowing and wall balls, I can get by on.
I'm 1000% for it. I'm here for it.
And it's
unless you want me to do them together.
The head thing, it's funny. The handstand push-up thing's funny because, like, outside of being affiliate owner and like learning how to be a leader and all this stuff too, learning how to be a leader, learning how to have a business partner who has a different vision than I do, like learning all these other compromises, like my own identity as an athlete. Like when I stepped away from, measuring my worth by how fast I can do Diane, right? Which I did for a very long time. And like, in truth, I would still really want to perform a certain way in that workout. But like, I have a cervical stenosis. Like I really, I remember a friend of mine is an orthopedic surgeon, and he was like, helped me get connected with the spine doc. And then the spine doc looks at my x-rays, and a doctor to doctor conversation, not the bedside manner. My friend
Yeah.
had this conversation with my spine doc, and he was just like, "Yeah, your friend is like his neck is fine as long as you don't, as long as he's not like you don't drop him on his head repeatedly." And I was just like, hmm. Funny thing about so
So when you
I
say,
have more or less retired from handstand push-ups nowadays, just in
okay,
terms of risk reward on that.
yeah,
I'll still teach it, I'll still cue it, I'll still do strict here and there, or even like something else. But like
mhm,
it's the ego stuff has been a lot to contend with, and so it's I think my own journey as an athlete from being overweight to being fit to being less fit, now being like dad fit,
mm,
and now just like trying to keep up with different people and have my own like definition of fitness too.
yeah,
Nothing gave me perspective. Like you always, I joke about it in the CrossFit space because this place largely becomes people's lives, and I think like as an adult, it's hard to make like, new friendships, right?
yeah,
So I think that's one of the things that CrossFit spaces or affiliates in general provide in a very unique way. Like
yeah,
it's hard to it's hard to make friends as a grown up, right? And I expect that when my son gets a little bit older, I'm just going to be forced to be friends with the parents of whatever kid he decides to hang out with, right? Um,
Yep.
but the CrossFit gyms or the affiliates are an interesting way or an easy way, I think, for people to be around like-minded people that are all trying to
mhm,
get better and whatever their definition of better might be.
yeah,
Um, in short, like it's been really interesting for me to kind of like see the scope there. And so like when you are in a gym all the time and you're measuring yourself against your own little ecosystem here, being like
mhm,
I'm the fittest person in the room, I'm not the fittest person in the room, I always finish last in my workout of
mhm,
8 to 12 athletes in the class or whatever. And then like just like I'm so out of shape, I'm so this, I'm so that. You just it's easy to get down on yourself, even inside of our own communities, like as supportive as they are. And like then you go to out into general population and you go shopping and you go to a grocery store or Target or Walmart and it's like, oh,
mhm,
I'm actually pretty fit. And
yeah,
then like and then I started working in an emergency room and I was just like, oh, I'm really really fit.
yeah,
Like I'm
Yeah.
super high up in the on like on that spectrum, and like I and my bubble was so tight by being in the gym, and like you have a peripheral awareness when you step out of it, but like as a fitness professional where I was literally spending all of my days in the gym and my wife's in the gym and my friends are in the
yeah,
gym and like there's even like my peripheral bubble going grocery shopping. This is pre-pandemic and all of that, but like
of course,
you try to have the perspective of like when you travel or when you go to a Red Sox game or something like that. But there was something unique about going to the hospital and being like, oh, this really does that slider really does slide pretty far down, right? So like,
yeah,
and then you really kind of it makes it a lot easier to be like, hey, maybe I don't have to do 75 unbroken handstand push-ups. Maybe my life doesn't require me to be that fit. You
yeah,
know, what are the requirements of my life, and what lifestyle do I want to lead? What example do I want to set for myself, and my son, and my community?
mhm,
Stuff like that. How do I do that? And that is it's a balancing act in a lot of ways. So, and I'm still figuring it out. Like I don't have the answers for that, but it's
of course you
definitely
are,
the perspective is valuable to be like,
yeah,
oh yeah, yeah, I'm probably truthfully fitter than I have to be for the demands of my life, right?
mhm,
Would it help my business if I looked fitter than I was in a marketing perspective? Sure.
sure.
Like if I was, you know, if I
If
looked
you're
better,
the
yeah,
if you're
right.
in the content for your marketing, maybe, you know,
Right. Right. So like, I mean, this is largely like, I mean, fitness, like there's definitely a big aesthetic piece to this. There's a lot of people that
sure,
just want to look better naked. Right.
yeah,
In addition, and the performance stuff is a nice side effect of that. Or however, the opposite, like the other way you want to look at it, if you want to turn that on its
right.
head. I
So I
do think a lot of people are motivated walking into a gym for the first time about wanting to make a change about, how their body
mhm.
moves or looks or that sort of thing. So, and I think that's a reality that is hard to ignore.
Well,
Um,
I agree entirely, and to that point, we had Pat Barber on maybe a couple months ago, and we are
Yeah.
talking about aesthetics and just
mm,
bodybuilding in general and the virtues or you know cons,
Pat's
pros and
hatred
cons.
of it.
Yeah, Pat's hatred of aesthetics, and,
Mhm.
and it being a kind of a gateway reason for people to come into fitness in general, or into CrossFit. I Listening to you talk about the transition from where you were as a fitness professional into where you are still as a fitness professional in a different role, both personally and professionally, right?
Mhm.
When I was engaged in when I was engaged with you in professional development, it's a very specific experience in terms of um, this is what coaching looks like, right? And the end result, the experience in class that the members get, that is what coaching looks like. And to your point about the affiliate owners going to the affiliate experience at the games, getting coached by level fours, and it's simple: couplets, triplets, heavy day, teach, see, correct, like your son, like it's your the name of the game because it is, and deliver a phenomenal experience, right? Two
Mhm.
rounds, 800-meter run, 25 bench press, 8.5 minute workout. I know too many coaches who would look at an 8.5 minute workout and then looking at the remaining 51.5 minutes and lose their mind. What what do you think like what is the most helpful thing you've realized in coming into affiliate ownership, right? And so not just your the facility head, but you run the whole shebang, right? Having a business partner who is of a different mindset for certain things, I'm sure. What do you find hardest about implementing that vision? Because my brain goes immediately to, is the talent pool big enough? Who can I get to execute on this? And then knowing it's probably a limited talent pool, how do I expand the talent pool as efficaciously and efficiently as possible?
Mhm. Um, Truthfully, I think that things like that have to be led from the front. You know, I have to take my classes. I have
Agreed.
to I have to coach my classes. I have to participate in my own programming. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, so like if I wouldn't consume the product, what am I doing? You
Yes.
know, so like, and I think that's a guiding tenet for me. Um, would I want to would I want to take my own class, right? Would I want to be an athlete in my class, right? Would I want to be a participant in my own gym? And that's a question that I ask myself all the time.
Mm.
And that's really kind of what I know. It's a really simple answer to that, but like so much of this feels like you have to lead it from the front. Like I can't expect anyone in this building to care as much as I do at all. Like there's it would be it's nice if they do. Maybe they will.
Sure.
Maybe someone
Yeah.
cares about something more than I do in here. But
Yeah.
like at best, I can ask people to have like 99% give as many shits as I do, right? At
Right.
best. But like I can't expect anyone to care as much as I do about everything that I do here, right?
No.
And like in the same way, I remember when I started coaching, just like, why don't you remember what a thruster is? You know, you've been coming here for. Do you have to do on ramp again? And like, there's a certain point of like, I still do that in a playful way in the relationship
Sure.
piece, but it's not my athlete's job to remember that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got sidetracked from your question, but like I guess
What's the
the
hardest part about it, creating that vision? You've got this vision, you want it to happen. What's the biggest barrier?
time.
Time.
There's no replacement for time. Like you have to. It's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of time under tension.
Mm.
It's a lot of reps. It's a lot of experience. It's a lot of just people have to see it happen. You know, and
Right.
they see it with each other and they see it with us. And it comes from me. It comes from my coaches. It
Mm-hmm.
comes from people participating in classes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it did take time to kind of like steer the ship back to the simple. Right, we weren't doing simple here for a while. We
I
were
know.
first when we opened, and then it got dropped like about a year or two before before ownership changed. And the previous ownership, like it was like without getting too far into it, like it was just different. Like our previous owner didn't coach classes here,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a little different. I don't know. I can't speak to that exactly. I don't know how many affiliate owners coach their own classes, like nation or worldwide.
Yeah.
And a lot of the trainers here were like here to coach a class, and then they'd have to go home, or they'd have some other iron in the fire.
Yeah.
And the coaches that did remain, that were here all the time, were often, doing work. They were athletes,
Yeah.
if as much as they were coaches, or they might even be athletes more than they were coaches. So they were doing
Yeah.
their own program. They have headphones in. So like culturally, that's what I inherited. I inherited people that were, following some miscellaneous program, working out 1 or 2 times a day, not taking classes. Everyone's fighting
Yeah.
over open gym space. Um, where like the classes were more or less empty. Like I came when I worked in the hospital, I would come here at 3 or 4 in the morning, and after I got off shift, and I would see the 5 a.m. come in, and it was one coach working with like 2 or 3 people, right?
Yeah.
And like we've had classes again where our 5 a.m. class pushes 15 to 25 athletes, and like
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing. But that didn't happen on the first day, so like there was a gradual transition, and there is this idea of like building trust and building these relationships, and these relationships happen through the crucible of time, right?
Yes.
So like it's not just one conversation, it's spending an hour together in class, and it's doing 3 to 5 classes a week after week. And I mean it's been 11 months, almost 12 now, since that changeover happened.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest barrier with that timepiece is patience. I kind of alluded to it before, but there was a lot of like I had to be really patient, and I had to try not to be really reactive when I did make changes. I really believed in the changes that I made when I made them.
Sure.
And it's hard. Like there's of course there's a little bit of pushback, but ultimately having put in a lot of time and put in a lot of care and put in a lot of effort with all these different people, like the question came down to was just like, hey, do you think I'm trying to make this place worse? Like that's
Yeah.
definitely not my intent. And so like I want to hear your feedback if you think that's what I'm doing, but like just can you give me a second to try it?
Yeah.
Like so it's like I'm not trying anything that I think is attractive. Like I know
Sure.
like anything that I bring into this gym or do to this gym, I want it to be additive to the experience of the client.
Mm. Yeah.
So it was hard to kind of, I think it felt like I was taking things away up to a
Mm.
point, but it was more like, people were taking classes. They wanted to work out together again. They wanted to have fun again. They wanted to like, sweaty fist bumps and all that with more than the other person that they were doing open gym with. So,
Yeah.
um, and like you just had to be really patient with that. Like I had a lot of clarity about how I wanted this gym to be for anyone could walk in the door. Like I wanted my programming to be as such that my mom could take the class, having never been in here. And that
Yeah.
gentleman that I met walking the dog last week is kind of proof of concept. And he's one of many that's happened with. Like our conversion rate for free trials is incredible. We have a hard time getting free trials because we're out in the
Yeah.
suburbs, but
Yeah.
like we turn over most people that walk in the door, like and like that the conversion rate is huge. And
Mhm.
I don't know that I'd be interested to see what other gyms' experiences are with that in terms of free trials and how they make free trials accessible or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I know that there's a few other like brand building companies or things that are meant to support affiliates, and I'm
Yeah.
all for any group that's trying to help us out and help everyone else out in our community greater. Um, and one of the things is always just like do the bring a friend week. And I was like, my gym's been open for 9 years. They've brought their friends.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
The friends are here.
so like we tried running it here, and like I'm not in a city place. Everyone still
Yeah.
lives here. Like the
Yeah.
friends have been. So now you just have to hope being like, oh, there's new ownership now. There's a dumpster. There's a cleaning crew. There's all the staff that you missed is back.
Yeah.
The programming is such a way. I got healthier. I've lost weight. Whatever that sort of stuff. So like the word of mouth thing is great. Um, I'm really excited for HQ's new mission to try to drive more people into the door. I don't like. I don't think I'm not one of the affiliate. I've had, like I said, I've had a lot of conversations with other affiliate owners recently, and like there's a lot of them that are like, we don't get enough from HQ. They feel like they deserve more from headquarters. And like my monthly membership is as such that if one person walks in my gym, what's the current affiliate fee? $3,000, right?
3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So like if literally one person walks into my gym because they Googled CrossFit, right? Just the word.
Mm-hmm.
And they join my gym and they stay for a year of annualized revenue, like my membership times 12. That's very nearly taken. That's paid for my affiliate fee with
Yeah.
one person, one client. That only if they join because they just heard of CrossFit and they Googled CrossFit, and that was the closest one to their space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, no, I don't get a ton of support from HQ, but I also don't give them that much either. So it's kind of nice to have the autonomy with all of that as well.
Well, and to your point about like it would be interesting to see what other affiliates metrics are for things like conversion from, free trials or whatever. Doing what I do, I can tell you that most affiliate owners are not tracking that data.
Yeah.
And it's a running joke inside of my company where if I ask you what your PR back squat or snatch is or what your Fran time is, you can recite it, the last 3 instances going back, but you can't tell me what, your average client value is. You can't tell me what your retention rate is, what your attrition rate is. Like you can't tell me what your conversion rate from, lead to appointments made to sales to closes is like. And those aren't difficult things to track. But when it comes to, like all of the things that you like took on in the last year, and there was a shit ton of them. I was there. I was like doing coaching development in that affiliate before there was a changeover. So I know exactly what it was like. I love that you mentioned culture. Like it was a huge culture problem. And trying to right that ship, I know exactly what it was like. And knowing you, I have a pretty good idea of what it's like now. And so the delta between the two is quite large.
Yeah. And I think like I don't know if it's a disconnect or I don't know if it's, that there's a awareness piece of it or not, but like the idea that we talked about with like, the affiliate owners getting this delivery of the L4 coach experience and being like, this is incredible. And like being able to bring that back to a community there's so many variables and so much variance around like how our communities look, right?
Absolutely.
But like
and appropriately so.
It's taken me nearly a year to get that kind of buy-in back, right? And my community is still largely like a good percentage of it are people that were coached like that years ago. And they had a really, it was like dragging them kicking and screaming back to their previous experience. Not all of them. No, don't get me wrong. Like, but it was just like, I really like doing it this way now. It was really hard to kind of like, just like, hey, remember when, it was all seminar staff that worked here? Remember when there was like 8 seminar staff members that worked at this gym? Remember how
it's great
all the time, right? And that's not to say that like I don't want my client experience to be the equivalent of a breakout group at a level 1, and there's a shades of gray there, right? Like I don't think
sure.
I don't think that's the product people are buying when they come in here. And I think, and I even agree that all the L1 people, the red shirts that did work here, they recognize that too. There are compromises that you make based off the audience that you have, right?
Yes.
So like the people that show up and do an L1 seminar are not necessarily the same people that are signing up for a CrossFit membership at a Gem Pop gym. Anyways, it took some time to kind of be like, hey, remember this experience? And like, it was hard to get to. What's going on?
Still going.
Yeah, still going.
Do you need to go?
No, I think I'm okay. I have no idea. But
you tell me, man.
I don't know. She would tell me if it wasn't okay.
Oh, is that Erica?
Yeah. That was
awesome.
Erica. But I don't know. The gist is that like it took a lot of, like I said, it took a lot of trust, took a lot of conversations, took a lot of like experience for everyone. People, there was one conversation I had was just like, I really want to do the Strength Metcon. I really miss how it was. I was like, what do you mean how it was? We never did that here.
Yeah.
For a hot minute in the when there was the transition and all that, and in the time before we took ownership.
Yeah.
And then the same conversation I had was just like the one where I alluded to earlier about like, when are you going to go back to do that? And I was like, never.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, why don't you take class and we'll have the same conversation for a week from now.
Yeah.
And like, if you still feel the same way about it, we'll talk about it again. And then the guy never took class.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it is what it is, but like you kind of look at it that way. And there are other people that have done it, and they did take classes, and we did have the conversation a week later, and they still felt the same way. And it's like, all right, well, it's just not the kind of product that I want to deliver here. Like, I don't want to force feed the barbell to everyone every day. In the same way that I'm not going to make everyone do gymnastics skill development every day, or make them do
that's a mistake
every day.
Shut up, Sam.
Would everyone benefit would people benefit from touching a barbell every day? Sure. People would benefit from eating a salad every day, like in some measure, right? But like, it's like, what makes you think that what you want is what everyone needs, right?
Yes.
And that's the same way that I feel. It's just like, is what I want what everyone needs in my community, and like, so I try to take my time when I make decisions like that. Anyways.
Well, being conscious of time, because I don't know about you, but anytime my wife peeks in on me and says, "Are you still doing that?" They're like, "That's an internal trick."
It could be, but at this point, being that she hasn't poked her head back in yet, she's probably found another solution for it. But
okay. Well,
so that might just be hopeful.
Right now, she's just planning. She's planning Sam's downfall.
Well, let's not push it. We're closing in on an hour for a recording anyway. So, like, you and I have talked about in your line that members, the biggest misconception for the members maybe is the difference between coaching and programming, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think still that is the biggest gap in understanding for your average member, or in the last year stepping into your role, having all of these wonderful, important discussions with your membership base? Do you think there's a bigger thing, the single biggest thing that you think, members don't know or don't understand about not just the business, but the provision of CrossFit and its methodology to a community of humans?
I mean, I would expand that beyond clients. I would expand that to coaches and other affiliate owners. It's the same belief. It's the same belief system that we're talking about here. Like, they think their version of the secret sauce is what, because measuring the quality of your programming by lack of complaints, I think is right? Just like no one complains anymore. Everyone loves it, so it must be good. It's like, I don't know if that's really the way that I would, measure success. I mean, that would be great. And again, like I said, I understand why people go the way that they do with it, because everyone's happy and they're not bitching. But like, in short, like it's not really how I want to do things.
Right.
So no, I would extend that beyond affiliate owners. Like, I think that has to, beyond athletes. I think that comes from affiliate owners. And I think it gets dropped into L1s, people that are, I got my hands, they don't fit, but this is all top down, right?
Yeah,
this isn't
absolutely.
this isn't an education thing from the client, right? This is an education thing it's a belief system piece from the top down. It's the more is better versus, more is just more.
Right. Better is better.
So yeah. And like, I think education is typically one of the biggest limiting pieces across the board, or like, whether you're talking about it now, like just understanding or intimate understanding of methodology or intent. And there's room for us to play with it. That's kind of the point. Like, CrossFit is a very big umbrella. Like, you could argue that redundancy is still still an aspect of variance, right? Repeating the concept of redundancy still falls under this overarching umbrella of variance. So like, whatever. So like, without getting into the theory piece of it, Yeah, I can see where we struggle with that. And like one thing that I wish we did better as a community, as a whole, nationwide, is the idea of like providing that education to someone who's never walked into the door of one of our gyms. Like, I think that I'm not trying to get someone who's already done CrossFit to join my gym. I'm
Right.
trying to be accessible to someone who's never done CrossFit to join my gym. And I think that that's a really big differentiator for most affiliates. I think people think that they're making themselves accessible to Gen Pop, right? But generally speaking, most of my experiences dropping into gyms around the country whenever I've traveled, that's
Yeah.
not been the case,
Yeah.
right?
I would agree with that.
So like you're catering to other CrossFitters, whether it's the ones in your community or the ones outside of your community or the ones you're hoping are just moving to the area or whatever. Like
Right.
that's what I think most affiliate owners think their ideal client is someone who's already done
Yes.
this shit before, you know.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
harder to offer a product to someone who's never done this.
Right.
And I think it's hard to get people in the door who have never done this because they have these conceptions. So I think that I would love for headquarters to help me or help us do a better job of showing that affiliates um, have different education levels, right? So like that there is a ranking system within our own hierarchy, right?
Oh,
This
wouldn't
is a
that be awesome?
right.
That'd be something.
This gym's been around for 10 years, but the affiliate owners don't renewed their L1 3 times, you know, just to keep their credential. You know what I mean? Like like that really like because like
Yeah.
when you if you were to go cage diving with sharks, right?
Yep.
And you look at the
Mhm.
cage, what's the cage look like, right? So like you can go up there being like, I want to try cage diving with sharks. And then like you look at the equipment that's being presented to you, you look at the guide, you look at the boat you're getting onto, and you make the decision of being like, all right, this is already, you know, perhaps a risky endeavor for me that I've never done this before. Do these providers provide an environment where I feel comfortable putting
Right.
myself in a vulnerable space, right?
Yeah.
With fucking sharks. I know this is probably not the kindest metaphor to play to CrossFit,
This is the best metaphor.
It's
but like
amazing. This is
if the you know if the welds look good, the cage looks good, it looks new, the boat is clean, like the guys have matching uniforms, you know, like the everything's all tight, the lines are tight, whatever. Like when you
yeah.
walk up to a space,
Yeah.
or if you Google it and you vet it and there's a star rating or whatever, like no one's been eaten on
Yeah.
this, no one's like the cages haven't fallen apart in the water, the ropes haven't broken, right? Like the idea that like if you could provide a metric that shows effectively the investment of the trainers
Yeah.
or the investment of the affiliate owners that shows that like we care maybe at least at minimum about our own education,
Yeah.
which is not a guarantee that we provide a better product, right? But like
Yeah.
it counts for
It's a
something.
relatively safe bet.
Yeah. So like I mean
Relatively safe bet.
the cage diving metaphor is not something I've really fully fleshed out, but like even like if you go grocery shopping, like when you go to pick food, it's like
Yeah.
does the food look like shit or not? Like is it when you're buying ground beef, is it grass fed or is it like 70-30 fat back, right? So
Right.
like it's
Depends on
it,
if you're bulking.
there's a subset, there's a ranking system, there's a way that we make decisions on everything that we consume in our lives. And
Yeah.
I don't think CrossFit has a ranking system. There is no quality control from HQ. And I
Yeah.
don't expect there to be. However, I would like there to be education to a incoming client that like there is a ranking system within our own hierarchy. And coaches understand that to each other. And I have a 15-minute warning. But coaches understand that, right?
Yeah.
And like even the clients in my own gym, most of them know what an L1 is or what the act like a level 1 certificate holder is, kind of, or
Mm-hmm.
a L1 coach. But I think most of them only know that because of some of the people that have coached them as seminar staff, or because we host seminars and they don't get to work out on the weekends, right? That's why
Right.
they know what an L1 is. I
Yeah.
think like if you take the average consumer of a CrossFit gym, they have no idea what an L1, L2, L3, L4 is. And I want my L4. I'm going to go for my L4. But I also don't really think that there's a lot of community awareness outside of the people that are already listening to podcasts like
Yeah.
this, you know?
I know.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
we know what an L4
Yeah.
is, but like
Yeah.
the level of buy-in you already have to have in the CrossFit space to have functional awareness of that.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I love the idea of having like, that would be something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, is having like an education piece that has to do with how CrossFit is marketed to the greater population that's never set foot in these doors before, or my doors or anyone else's, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously not a super fleshed out vision of what that looks like. And that's for someone, you know, that is, you know, sits in a different chair than I do. But I think it'll happen. You heard it here first. I also think the affiliate fee will go up too for the same reason. But you know, the rising
probably.
right.
You know, I think that, so I'm listening to you talk, and like this is my dream, that there's a way, because like I get asked as a trainer, I get asked as a person, like, hey, I've never done CrossFit, like, or you know, what do you recommend? I'm like, well, go fucking do CrossFit. But
Mhm.
you know, how, like, where do you like, if you're local and I've been to the gym, I know the places that I would tell you to go and would not tell you to go. And
Yep.
to your point, I've traveled and I have seen some sketchball affiliates, and you know, where coaching is a word that is uttered and not understood in any way, shape, or form. And I love the idea of a ranking system, but to do that, HQ would have to be willing to say, you are not up to snuff. Like, objectively speaking, because there's going to be a spectrum, right? And
Maybe.
so
I mean,
let's,
Or at least,
they have all the data. It's really just kind of making that more public in the
like, publicly known.
right?
but
But it
Like,
also, like, if CrossFit
hey, you're
gives
no
a
one talk. But like,
right.
but making that obvious out there, you know, making people aware of, like, you know, the level of investment that you're putting into your continuing education, right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of trainers that like got their L1 and then they choose to continue education through other avenues. They take other seminars, other clinics, you know, things that are outside, they're connected, like in terms of, like I said, variance, the umbrella is huge.
Sure.
Like you go to USAW and you get your sport performance weightlifting coach certificate, whatever. But like, purely, if I'm expecting more from CrossFit to move people into my space, then CrossFit makes sense to me that they would reward people that have bought into their training structure, right? And like, and honestly, like, there's upside to them too. They build that more people sign up to do L1s.
Yeah.
L2s.
It makes complete sense, but I think if you know, to Mr. Burns' point over there, when he was like, basically CrossFit telling people that are up to snuff, as soon as they're like, okay, guys, we're going to do this, we're going to put out a ranking system for affiliates,
they'll be pissed.
There's probably right. So
I wish everyone did cap, so there was no illusions about like the quality of your trainers.
Yeah.
But
if like that,
I think,
everyone did cap, then every gym would only be differentiated by like how your trainers execute.
Yeah,
or
but
everyone
I think
did.
you know,
CrossFit doesn't have to be
CrossFit slaps a ranking label on all the different affiliates, and you know, I know that Sam Horenstein owns CrossFit One Nation, and they got a full 10 out of 10 ranking, and then I own CrossFit Kevin, and you know, I got a 5 out of 10 rating, and all of a sudden now it's like, well, fuck HQ, I'm just gonna unaffiliate.
Yeah.
And because I could see that happening. One of two options: either then me as the affiliate, I have to go like, wow, like I'm really off the mark here. I thought I was doing a really good job, because this was me when I took my level 2. I thought I was a really good CrossFit coach because I was getting my bachelor's degree in exercise science. I was like, I know what torque is and how you can, you know, do different weird stuff like that with training. And then I took my level 2 with Austin and had the same moment Sam did when he was with you and Meg, where I was teaching something and Austin goes, stop what you're doing. Like, not even remotely close. And I was like, oh, all right, then, sick. So either me as the affiliate owner would have to sit there and say, okay, I'm not doing as great a job as I thought I was. I'm going to now get better. The easier route that I hope most people wouldn't take, but it's definitely the easier route is, well, I'm just gonna like as soon as my affiliate fees up, fuck these guys, and I'm gonna keep going about my business.
Yeah, sure. I mean, go ahead. Like I like if people want to, they can do what they want to do. Truthfully, like I'm not. I'm
I
not
agree with you. I'm just saying those are
I
like the
don't. Yeah,
two
no,
options.
I hear you. Like, and I think there's always a risk of that. But like I said, the data's already there. Like all they have to do is lean into that a little bit more in terms of education.
They just have to put it on
And
paper.
and yes, it is going to paint some gyms in a light where it's just like, why don't you do that? But like if their communities are, it doesn't affect their current community. It would affect like the
Potential new,
right. So
right,
like
right.
if their gym's already strong enough that it doesn't matter, right? Like and like there's only upside for it in my opinion. So like if you want to, if your community is weak and your coaching development is weak, then you know this is going to not. I mean, it's not going to help you, but maybe some coaching development will help you as a coach, and maybe you'll also get more feeders in the same way too. So it's like I said, it incentivizes. I don't want to be the biggest building in town by tearing other buildings down. You know what I mean? Like I just want to keep working on building. But like there is a lot to be said for doing something that kind of elevates all of us or brings that education piece to the front.
Well, and if nothing else, there's nothing wrong with, you only know what you know, and when you are forced by circumstance or desire or whatever up against the realization that your skill set only exists at X capacity and the available potential skill set is Y, Z, double A, double B, et cetera, then that's a very uncomfortable moment. Like to be like, oh, I thought I was king shit of the pile, and you find out you're a foothill in the Alps. That's a very uncomfortable position. I think it's an important distinction to make. And if CrossFit wants to survive, and if talk about Greg Glassman's "The Cream Will Rise to the Top," this is like, is that Erica pinging you?
Yeah. I got an emoji with a knife. So
okay,
let's put a button on this.
All right, so
it hasn't
we could
been
lose
your
a lot of
15
time.
minutes yet. You got 7 more minutes.
No. We're gonna let him go. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time, and please apologize to Erica for us. And
you should say hey. You can pick this up with her on another call. I'm sure you'd have a lovely conversation.
I would love that. Yes, please. I'm gonna bug her too.
Yeah. Let's go.
Awesome, Sam. Thank you so much. Fair. Yeah, go be awesome. Go be a dad, and can't wait to talk to you again soon, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Miss you both.
Miss you both too, homie.
Miss you too, bud.